Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Yeah, it never really, it fails to materialize and ever get off the ground. So you guys, all the mercenaries go back to the UK. Some time goes by, and Mr. Tompkins shows up at your door a second time.
Yes, he did.
What's his story now?
The story was he came, we sat down, and he explained that a group of men wanted Pablo Escobar eliminated. And I said, well, okay, let's go for it. And so Dave and I flew out there, and we met the businessmen, and he says, we want you to, terminate this guy. So we said it's going to cost money. There's going to be salaries. We're going to need weapons. We're going to need equipment. We're going to need helicopters. And they produced everything that we needed.
Mm-hmm.
It was well organized from their side. Anything we asked for, we got it. And when the weapons turned up, they were brand new. They hadn't been used. They'd been brought into Colombia inside washing machines, broken down, and come in as washing machines.
So many of these mercenary operations around the world they're half-assed. They're not put together the right way. But this one, they brought you helicopters, they brought you quality weapons and kit. You had professionals who had previous combat experience on your team. This was like the real deal.
It was. We trained for 11 weeks to assassinate one person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been in the military quite a while, and we never ever had that amount of time. Every day we went out and trained on it. Okay, right, I'm not in charge, you're in charge. Run the show from your side. Okay, and we just change them around every day. So as every man knew exactly what was going on, and they knew what all the other men were doing. It wasn't a load of half-assed squaddies turning up there, totally untrained like you see in the movies. Helicopters coming from all different directions. Sylvester Stallone's in one and Schwarzenegger's in the other, and they just go into the jungle and terminate everybody. It wasn't like that. We trained for it.
Yeah. And when you say train, I assume that you mean running rehearsals, right? And so did you guys have good intelligence on the location you'd be hitting and things like that?
Oh yeah, I flew over the place 3 or 4 times, and I looked at it, and I was a bit wary at first, and then when I saw the actual place, I said, this is tailor-made for us, It's our type of thing. So the men didn't know where it was this time. We didn't want to leak. And so we just trained on it, and we drew a house out in the ground, and we'd all practice, white 1, white 2, and we had the whole place colour-coded and numbered. So everybody had a turn at being the guy in charge, can you see it, in case anything went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We all sat down with what we call a Chinese parliament in the SAS. We'd sit down, right, what happens if somebody gets wounded? Action on. What do? We've got to get them out. How are we going to get them out? Okay, there's an airstrip up there. Let's have a caravan stationed up there, waiting to take any wounded out. Stuff like that. It was really interesting. And the men had an awful lot of input there. They put an awful lot into it.
Could you tell us a little bit in basics, what your plan was that you had developed, how this was going to go down?
Right, basically what happened, we'd have a Telstar up. That was our communications that for everybody that was on the ground. We had a caravan stationed, an airstrip further up, about 6 or 7 kilometres away. And we had 2 helicopters to do the assault. And the plan was to fly up there, fly as low as we could, because all the guys who operated the radar there were on the payroll to Pablo Escobar, although they were army guys. So the idea was to fly up low, then go over the top of the mountain, come down low again, and go and assault the place.
And what would be the actions on the objective once you hit his compound?
The action on the objective was to be a fire team would land, and they would be the cover team. And the next team that came in were the assault team, and they would carry on clearing the houses as they went along. I was in the helicopter above, coordinating everything. We all had the top of our hats were all had yellow crosses on them, so that I could see who was what on the ground. And we practiced clearing the way through the whole lot. And it wasn't some half-arsed thing. I've done a lot of training with men, and I have never seen as much training for done. We did dress rehearsals, full dress rehearsals with live ammunition, and actually attacking the place. And so it wasn't just a load of guys chancing their luck.
Right.
And what actually happened is a mountain got in the way.
You talk in the book about how when you got the green light and they told you to execute the mission, how you gathered the men up for a little speech, and how proud you really were of all of them, that they had drilled so hard and they were so prepared for this operation.
They were, honestly, they'd really given it everything. Mm-hmm. And I felt that they'd done an awful lot for me, and that they just kept on, and no matter what I suggested, it was done. If there was any chuntering, I never heard it. Yeah. But when I got there, I got them round. I said, "This is it, guys," and everybody was up for it. It wasn't just the guys going, "I'm having second thoughts here," you know.
Yeah. Now, Pablo Escobar wasn't just some dude. Like, he had his own army. Yeah. What kind of resistance and opposition were you guys estimating or planning at the house?
He was reputed to have between 60 and 80 men, guards. We assumed that half of them would be off shift and the other half would be doing the day shift. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we had enough ammunition there to kill between 2,000 and 3,000 men. Mm-hmm. And don't forget, we'd been in Rhodesia in South Africa. We'd fought against the odds before. Mm-hmm. And it's all right watching a movie and seeing these guys were highly skilled. They were highly trained killers, yes. They weren't highly trained soldiers. Mm-hmm. Two different things.
Yeah, yeah.
And then can you tell us about, you boarded the helicopters that day, took off, heading towards Escobar's compound. What happened?
Well, on the way up there, I really felt at peace. I was thinking the whole time, did I do enough to give these men a fair deal? Did I do enough that these men will do this operation and come back? And I felt I'd done enough. And then we turned in, we flew over a town called McAleese, and then we turned right to go over the top of the Andes. And then I noticed there was an awful lot of low cloud. There was 2 helicopters. The other guy went as high as he could. I noticed he was climbing right up. And the pilot we had was a younger guy. And he just carried on. I said, "You must know what he's doing here." And the next thing, we were in cloud. And I lucky enough, I turned around to Dave Tompkins and the guys in the back. I says, "Get yourself in the crash position." And that's when we hit the trees. Through not having my seatbelt on, I was thrown to the one side, and the blade of the helicopter came past me and hit the pilot. And the chopper turned upside down. We bounced through the trees a couple of times and landed. And it's funny how things you were taught in the army, you never forget them. The helicopter was turning around and the blades were spinning, and the tail rotor was spinning. And I said to the guy, "Sit where you are until the blades stop. Because there's no use getting out of the helicopter, you're going to get chopped up."
Yeah.
So when the blades got up, we got out of the helicopter, and there was a hole about 10 feet deep, and the helicopter was in it. And I climbed up, and Dave Tompkins got down, and Dave tried to put a drip in him. And then I came down, and I said to Dave, I says, pass me down the drip. And I couldn't get a drip, and it was, he went a bluish colour. And I went, all I can do is make this man's life a bit less painful for when he dies, So I pumped some morphine into him, and he just drifted away. Mm-hmm. It was only then, after he died, did I realise that I'd injuries myself. I was too busy working on him. And Dave and one of the guys pulled me up, and every bone in my body was aching. And they pulled me onto a little ledge. And I lay there for 3 days.
While Dave and another mercenary went to go get help, right?
Yeah. It was at this time that I realised I'd broken a rule. I should have sent one guy down and kept one guy with me. But I somehow I just said go, but I wasn't myself.
Yeah, right.
Dave got a load of bandages and whatnot, and it was cold up there. So he put all the bandages inside my jacket to try and keep me warm, any medical stuff he had. And I just lay in this ledge. I'd lost my watch in the crash. And then I started feeling hungry, and I found a can of beans, and I had a little block of Hexamin in my escape bag, and this can of beans was there as well. And, I cooked it, and I ate the beans, and as I say, I just lay there, and the pain was excruciating. And it was funny, I lay there, and I'm a Catholic. I had a Catholic upbringing, and I was trying to make a deal with God. And I said, God, if you get me out of this one, I'll try and be a good boy. I know I've let you down a number of occasions. Try to do a deal like I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to my higher power. Anyway, I lay there, and eventually I heard guys coming. And I didn't know whether they were baddies or goodies. And I just got myself ready for the worst. And I said, well, again, the old Catholic prayers came out. I said, if I'm going to die here, let me do it with a bit of honour. So I decided that, I'd take as many as I could with me, because I knew if they got hold of me, I was going to die a terrible death. Yeah. But fortunately for me, it was guys who were coming to find me, but I didn't know that. They were speaking in Spanish. So as the guy came up to me, he didn't see me. I was just lying there, tucked in behind a bush, and I stuck my weapon in his stomach. And his hands went up in the air. He went, Ricardo, Ricardo, Ricardo. And they eventually got a hold of me and decided to take me down. And what they did is chop down a tree and cleared all the branches off. They were very competent. They just sliced this tree down. They tied me to the tree and lowered me down each re-entrance and lowered me down each waterfall as we came along, And it was painful. And I says, what wonderful men these are. And we get down to the bottom. And we lay there for the night. And I'd been singing their praises. And all of a sudden they had my escape bag and they were robbing it. I'd escape money in there and they were split it up.
How injured were you? What had happened?
I had 4 ribs broken at the front on one side, 4 on the other side, and the opposite side. And what happens when you crash with an aircraft or a helicopter? You stand still with the crash, and your organs inside go and smash against your ribs. It's called stove chest. It wasn't as bad as it can kill you, but I had it fairly bad, but not enough to do me in. Mm-hmm. And it was immense. The pain was immense. It was an experience.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that, again, this was not like many of the mercenary operations out there. Like, your employers actually did get you a helicopter and got you out of there and got you medical treatment.
Yeah. And, there's pictures there where I was bedded down for, I think, the best part of a couple of weeks, and I recovered fairly well, and the men were bringing me tea and apples, but the tea didn't have any value.
No value?
At this time,
You probably wanted it this time, though.
But
I probably needed it.
Yeah. So did they, obviously this was a tragic event, and, but did they scrub the mission? Did they try to push it forward?
No, we, well, it was mainly David was pushing it. He said, right, we're going to go back again. And so by this time, a reporter called James Adams had got a hold of the story. Dave reckons he was a spook, and that's how he got hold of it.